Um, I think in most cases, you always think of communication as me communicating to you. Like it's always about the message that's being sent.
Sure.
But we sometimes forget about the importance of the receiver, like the
Yo.
person on the receiving end.
It's also timing.
100%.
It's not always what you say, but it's
100%.
when you say it and how you say it. Those two things,
And
I
why you feel the need to say what you're saying.
yes.
Like in your mind, you constantly have to have your intentions of what you want, of what you're wanting to say checked out, and you really have to like get time to get to know the person that you're trying to communicate to, and you really need to know like how. Hi guys, welcome back to Becoming by Nqobile. If you're new here, welcome. I hope that you stay and refer all your people to come and join us. So today we have someone who's not a stranger to our family, Mr. Has Baby.
What's up? It was good to be with the Becoming family.
Oh, welcome. And today we're going to be speaking about something that's been a conversation in our home for a while. So we decided that we're going to bring this conversation to the masses and hope that you guys are just able to engage with us, share your thoughts with us, and so forth.
Yeah. So communication. I feel like the communication topic almost feels like it's being done.
True.
Almost feels like it's being done, but I think the perspectives in which we have a conversation about it could be interesting and hopefully helpful to somebody who's watching the episode.
100%. Like you're right when you say that like you feel like you've heard it all about communication.
Yeah.
Until you hear a different angle to it, which makes sense because when you think of how literally every single thing that we do is based on a way of communication, whether it's body language, whether it's written word, whether it's spoken word, like it's endless. So it makes sense why it's a conversation that you can never just. That's not linear, rather.
Yeah, it's true. It's not linear. I think what also is interesting about communication is the fact that people are different.
True.
People are different, and also when it's a lived experience, it's also different because you can hear so many gurus speak about communication. And we take that stuff and you learn from it.
100%.
But also depending on the personality types that are speaking together, depending on the background of the people,
just always dynamics.
your perceptions, your views. I think that's what makes the communication topic interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's so many combos. It's not like
100%.
It's not like a linear, just straightforward thing.
Yeah, 100%. And even when you're saying that, like, I think in most cases, you always think of communication as me communicating to you. Like it's always about the message that's being sent. But
Sure.
we sometimes forget about the importance of the receiver, like the person on the receiving end. I always look at it like this. It's like sending someone a WhatsApp. You can type till your thumbs fall off. But in order for the person to be able to receive your message, they need to have a phone that supports WhatsApp. They need to have data to receive that message. So the deliverer of the message is just as important as the receiver of the message as well.
That is so powerful. That's so powerful because I like the WhatsApp analogy. It's like, you know, for me, I hate it when people just reply with the okay.
True.
Yeah, just okay. Because I don't know what you're saying.
Do you mean?
What do you mean?
Like what tone?
Like, are you like, oh, okay? Or
is
you're
it
like,
like okay?
It's like, I'm not interested. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
what? Like,
Yeah.
let me know, reassure me.
Yeah.
Even though, like you're saying, I'm the receiver of that okay.
Yeah.
But even though you are like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you know,
Yeah.
maybe that's your tone.
Yeah.
But as a receiver of that message, I just heard, okay.
Something else.
Yeah, I heard something else.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think what we want to focus on a bit more in detail today is the barriers of communication, but we're not going to like expand on everything. We're just going to highlight two of what we feel like are some of the most common barriers to communication
100%.
that not a lot of people speak about. And I just want to draw a little bit from what you just said about the fact that for you receive that okay as like whether you the person's not being interested or whatever the case is. But I know that I've probably like replied okay to a message of yours before. I don't know.
Yes, but we spoke about
But
it.
we spoke about it. See, but that's the thing that I think when I probably said okay, it was oh okay. But then the way you received it was different. And it makes me think of, like how we always communicate. I think we were speaking about this earlier. We always communicate to people the way that we talk. We don't customize communications to the way that they receive or the way that they understand.
Sure, yeah. This is definitely that. Also, this thing of communication. I think one of the things we were speaking about on top of that is that we often, what's the word? We often react instead of respond. Because that's what. I think also the thing is the communication. I feel like it's mostly tested. If everything is just casual, it's almost like your communication is not really tested until there's something that you'll have to get through or work through.
That's uncomfortable.
That's either uncomfortable or you
like
need
taboo,
to.
Or like,
because I feel like just general communication is general, but the communication skill is really tested when, even if it's not something that's hectic, but when there's something that we need to work through. Either a difference in opinion or we need to come together towards something, etc. And I think that's where that came from. I think it happens so often because, like you're saying, communicating is one thing, but also listening to the communication is another thing.
It's a completely different process that not a lot of people speak about. I mean, I think going back to what I said about the fact that we usually speak the way that we hear, it's like, imagine if I was to start speaking French and I get frustrated that you're not responding to me.
Sure.
And I'm speaking French because that's just how I want to express myself. But in my mind, I'm not thinking of the fact that even if I can speak till my whole face turns purple, you don't understand French. So you can't do what I'm asking you to do. Sure. You can't, like respond to what I'm asking you to respond to. And I think it goes back to the classic conversation of men are from Mars and women are from Venus, because I feel like in relationships, that's what usually happens. Us as women, or you guys as men, we usually like speak or interact with each other in a way that makes sense to us without actually spending time to learn that, okay, with Mawanda, he doesn't like it when I reply with okay, so I mustn't reply with okay, otherwise he's gonna think his own different things and like all of that. So like the concept of communication, it's such a what's the word? It's such a layered thing, because it's not just about like getting and receiving messages, whatever the case is, but it's also about like in your mind, you constantly have to have your intentions of what you want, of what you're wanting to say checked out, and you really have to like get time to get to know the person that you're trying to communicate to, and you really need to know like how to sort of how to sort of package what it is that you want to say to them to provoke the type of response that you want to provoke from them. Wow. So I know that if I want to annoy, I'm going to say okay, True. But if I know that like I'm expecting like a specific response or specific energy from you, then I need to tailor make whatever message that I'm trying to communicate at that time to sort of trigger the response that I'm trying to get. And people do that whether you're trying to communicate something that builds or whether you're trying to consciously like irritate.
Make sure you hear this.
So the intention also plays like quite an important role in the process.
I love that. And the two main things, like you were saying, that we want to touch on is, I think one, the reacting versus responding, but also, since you already touched on it, the different communication ways between men and women. What are some of those things? Like, I think we see it within us. We communicate.
I'll give you the classic example of what always happens in my household. So when I come back from work and my husband asks me, how's my day? This is how I respond. So I left, and as I opened the gate, I saw a rabbit walk across the road. Then I had to wait for 2 minutes for that rabbit to finish crossing the road. Then I drove up the road. When I got to the stop sign, I saw a pink car on the other side. And I stopped. I was like, oh, that's such a nice pink car. And then I drove up Umhlanga Rocks Drive, and on my way to work, and I haven't even touched like the surface of what my day was, but I've already spent like 5 minutes or like even more than 5 minutes just detailing the moment I unlocked the keys and stepped my foot
step
out,
out, yeah.
and then I said, yeah, and then I went to coffee, and then I saw this person. So like I'm very, 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 very detailed. And I'm sure like by the time I'm halfway, you've tapped out. Whereas for my husband, if I ask him, how's your day at work? I know it was okay. Oh, okay. Like, who did you see? How's this person? Oh, no, they're fine. You see? So like it's something like that. Like I've noticed that I used to feel like you're not like interested in telling me the details of your day, because I'd always expect you to tell me how your day was, the way that I communicate my day, without actually thinking that maybe your day really was just okay. Maybe you really didn't just take notes of all the small little things that were going on. And maybe that is actually just the way in which you communicate how your day was. You know what I'm saying?
But on the flip side, I've also learned how to put more meat into the
Yeah.
question. Yeah, no, my
Thank
day was
God.
good. Yeah, I met so and so.
Yeah.
This was the conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, this is an interesting idea that happened.
Yeah.
And this is this. So there's also that. But how does that? Have you noticed that usually play out in couples?
Yeah, like
In
it played out
different
for
scenarios,
us.
not just in the how was your day,
Yeah.
but in the terms in which we express ourselves,
Yeah.
especially when there's something that's challenging,
Yeah.
etc. I think with us, I know that I'm not as expressive.
Yeah, like especially like if I look at something like conflict resolution, probably,
Yeah.
like maybe you find that one party is avoidant and the other party like wants things to be spoken about like now, and you find that just because, maybe let's use us for example, like just because I feel like I want things to be spoken about now, I'm not like being mindful of the fact that maybe you just need a bit of time to process like the conversation, and like
Yeah.
you're not ready, and like if I want to speak about it now, then it ends up like defeating the whole purpose of trying to resolve whatever conflicts we would have been facing at that
100%,
time.
100%. And I think, like we were saying, because I think there's tools, but also it's not exactly a one size fits all because of the different personalities.
Yeah.
That
And
do
the
exist,
dynamics of the
dynamics.
relationship as
So,
well.
for example, we had to find ways, and which we still do till now, actually, because as we evolve, you find that even those things kind of
They
evolve and
change,
change.
yeah.
But we had to find ways to, how do we meet each other halfway with regards to conflict resolution or uncomfortable conversation. And I also found that the difference also between men and women is that it's also timing.
100%.
It's not always what you say, but it's
100%.
when you say it and how you say it. Those two things,
And
I
why you feel the need to say what you're saying.
yes. So I think those two things can either make or break a
yeah.
conversation.
100%.
No matter how uncomfortable or comfortable it is. You might find that you're saying the right thing. You might find that this is a conversation we do need to have. But you might find that the timing of having that conversation is really completely off.
Or maybe you might even find that you're having a conversation when you're not supposed to be. Like, I know that this is something that we started doing as well. Sometimes I will like go off, not like off as in rude, but sometimes I'll like, what's it called? Like a rant type of thing. Or like I'll share frustration with you, or like I'll share a problem with you. And then I'd say, I don't need your advice this time around. I just need you to just listen to me.
Yes, that helped because
Yes.
before you'd say
You
all
want
of
to
that,
fix it.
and I'm like,
Then I'm
okay, let's fix this. How do
overwhelmed.
we get this? Whereas when you tell me, oh, that's what it is, then I can
Yeah.
also participate
Yeah.
with that understanding
Yeah.
that okay, it's just you wanting
Just offloading.
to offload, and also my response to that exactly the whole
different.
is different to let's go into solve. Whereas no, I don't really need to solve it. I just want to tell you about what's happening.
Which again ties in to the differences between men and women. Men naturally want to fix all problems, whereas us, and obviously I'm not generalizing because people aren't the same, and whereas for me, for instance, sometimes I just want to offload and just get it off my chest,
Yeah.
and then maybe come back 2 days later and then think about a solution, or
That's
then think
true.
about
That's
how
true.
we're going to fix it, you know? So yeah, like all of those dynamics are very interesting. But you touched on something that I actually want to go back on, the whole thing of talking to respond. Want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. I'm trying to think what sparks the conversation. I think we were driving or something, and I don't know if it was something between us or we were watching something. And the idea is that we often, either in a heated moment or even if it's sharing ideas, sometimes people just want to quickly say what they want to say. So you say something to me, and I react instead of responding. Now, the difference is when I react, it means that I didn't take what you said, I didn't process it, I didn't think it through, then give you a response based on what you have said. So now things just keep escalating, or you've just nullified the next person's idea, even if it's not a relationship or friendship, etc. Simply because you just wanted to say what you wanted to say. You did not listen.
Yeah. Sometimes you're very selfish in our communicating here.
In what sense?
Like selfish in the sense that you make it all about you.
You mean the person who does that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And in general, like even just going back to some of the things that we've spoken about as well, I think it's being selfish, or maybe not consciously or intentionally, but I think it may come across as being selfish if I'm just saying what I want to say. Like
I think
the
it
way
may,
that I want to say it, yeah.
I think, but also I think that builds a layer of other challenges.
Yeah.
Simply because of the reacting instead of responding. And I think that's how also sometimes things get out of hand. You know, and like when people are like, I don't know what happened, but it just escalated. And then the next thing, you know, we were loud and shouting at each other and etc. But I think that often happens, especially if you don't find a way to communicate that, because one or the other party has to. You might find that both the people do that. I say something because I'm reacting. You say something because no one is actually stopping and actually responding. Okay, so what are you saying when you were saying
what
this?
do you mean?
What do you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I might be generalizing here, but I feel like that's something that's common. I know it's happened with us. I think it happens in friendships, etc., where you realize, this person actually didn't hear what I said. They just wanted to really say what they wanted to say instead of processing. This is what.
Yeah, 100%. I think it goes back to what you said a while ago as well, of not just what you want to say, but how you say it and when you say it and with what intention. And I think so often we don't have all of those concepts at the back of my mind, at the back of our minds when we're communicating. And also like there's things like emotions and like all of these other things that just get in the way of like your logic and so forth.
The thing of timing, gosh, we definitely need to do this as a pod series because there's so many layers, like you're saying.
Yeah.
But just touching on the whole timing thing I think we need to find ways to learn. I think commonly with men and women, it is a timing thing, but we need to find ways to learn when is a good time to bring up something. Because I find that if you're going to bring up an uncomfortable conversation, I think the general person will probably want to build a wall.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Because I feel like an attack is coming.
Yes, I
feel like, okay, what is it? Then automatically I want to react instead of respond because I'm building that wall. I don't want you to showcase
being defensive.
Either my weakness or just showcase something that I'm really uncomfortable about. It could be a plethora of things. So I think the timing is very important, but also I think I've heard people speak about timing, Guti, but I think people are different.
No, 100%. 100%. I think also relationships are different.
Yeah.
Because a conversation that you can have with me, I wouldn't respond the same if my best friend was to have it with me, if my mom was to have it with me. So I think also the depth of the relationship is very important. Like, I remember I had a problem with this a couple of days ago where I was wearing something and someone who I'm not very close with sort of wanted to, I don't know, like fix it or like type of vibe. And I felt very uncomfortable. I was like, why are you touching me? Like, we're not that close. Whereas if my friend was like, friend, like do it like this, then I'd be okay.
Yeah.
So I think also like sometimes we we always assume that just because I can have this conversation with my husband and he's fine, that I can have the same conversation with my colleague and he'll
That
also
is
be
so
fine
true.
and he'll also respond the same way. Whereas people are different, relationships are different, dynamics of relationships are different. You kept on touching on that, and we constantly need to have all of those things at the back of our minds.
Yeah, that is so true. And also this thing of having an uncomfortable conversation, going back to the whole timing thing. Like I just got back from work. I have had a long day.
Bro.
And then you want to come, maybe you want to say, hey, I feel like you haven't been noticing me.
Yeah.
Yes, it's saying the right thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a good conversation to
That's not
start
the right
and a good
time.
thing to, but it's not the right time.
And your
what that ends up-
response is going to be different.
and the response is going to be different. You're not going to be happy with the response. Then it becomes a thing of, you see what I meant?
Yeah, there's
Whereas
a whole conflict.
if we are taking a morning walk, we buy a coffee, and in that space where both of us are just vulnerable with each other,
Yeah,
we in our
guards
calm
are
state,
dropped.
guards are dropped.
Yeah.
And I can say also that's another thing. Like I feel like when guards are dropped, if it's coming from a good place,
Sincerity, yeah.
you can sense the sincerity. And my response will also be like, oh my
snap.
word.
Let me actually think about that.
I can take it in, and I can also do some introspection within that moment, and I can respond accordingly to you to say
100%.
you were saying the right thing, and then we can discuss it.
This is our rule. Sorry to cut you. This is our rule at home. We never discuss hectic things at home. Like we usually always go to a coffee shop, always go for a walk.
Yeah, we'll pause. Don't worry about it.
It sounds so cold.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like the wind is doing the most. Right? Okay. Just
And that's been like a tip that I always give to my clients as well. Like if there's a hectic, heavy conversation to be had, don't have it at home.
Yeah.
Go to a coffee shop because you can't shout at each other at a coffee shop. But also it facilitates a conducive environment of like that dropped guard and like that
Yeah, that's
safe
true.
space and like, you know.
And if it is at home, it's usually when we are doing something that drops our guards.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
either we chilling together, having a meal on the table, or we chilling in bed in the morning, and we starting
The
our day. The environment
has
yes,
to be conducive.
has to be that. Yeah. So even if it is at home, that's how we do it, and I think that's how it works.
That's helped.
So I think, how do you listen to respond instead of react?
Just listen. Like stop and listen.
Okay.
Stop, listen, digest, think.
Do you think it's a skill? Because it's like that whole read in between the lines thing. Do you think that's a learned skill? Or
I think it's something that we all have the potential of doing when we are mindful of it. Again, I'm going to keep bringing back intentionality. If you want to listen. I think we all can. I think we all have the capacity to do it. And if you feel like you're in a space where you're constantly listening to respond over like a long period of time, then I think stop and figure out what's going on internally. Like, what is it that you're not addressing? Like, is there underlying like issue? Is there underlying anger or whatever? Because usually like there's something that would drive that feeling like defensive or you know what I'm saying. So I think we all have the potential to be able to listen properly, but sometimes that potential gets, I don't know, like overshadowed by like something else that may be a different dynamic or something else that may be underlining the relationship at that time.
And then this is interesting because it might touch into something we spoke about. But what do you do if you're in a situation where either a friendship, a family member, a romantic relationship, etc., where you feel like the person you listen to respond, but the person you're always speaking to they just react.
Speak to them. Like, what have we done? What do you do when
it's going to go back to one of the things we spoke about, which is timing.
Yeah.
So we would have that conversation, but we will find a conducive environment and a conducive space for me to be able to tell you that, hey, I feel like you're not hearing me here. That's why I'm saying that's one of the answers, because
it's all like linked.
It's all like linked,
connected.
Because I think I have to find a space and a time in which I know that you are comfortable enough to receive that when we're having the conversation. And when you hear that, you're going to hear the sincerity behind it. And that's how we're able to discuss it.
To reflect.
And I think also another thing is that it's not just about me saying it, but it's about us now working through it.
Yeah.
So now, okay, what
That's
do we do in the
important.
future when this happens again?
That's important.
How do we start this conversation?
Yeah.
How do we have a word? Do we have something that we say when I feel like, okay, we're getting back to that part 100%. Where you're not listening to me again, vice versa.
100%.
So I think that's also,
through.
Yes, I think that's the follow through. Because sometimes I feel like we often say, have the conversation, but what does that entail? What does the conversation look like? It looks like sharing vulnerable parts together. But more than that, how do we future-proof it? Because it's not that it's not going to happen again. You might find for the next 6 months, the communication might be great.
Yeah.
But then something happens in the 7th or 8th month, and then now we need to come back to that conversation.
What happened?
But that first time around, we need to establish some form of formula or ground rule as to when this happens again.
How do we go back?
How do we approach it? How do we go back, etc.?
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah. So I think, like you said, the communication conversation is long, and I think I'd be keen to definitely explore this more and pick your brain about it,
and me pick your brain about it as well.
I think with the different personalities, you really do realize that there are so many different dynamics to it.
Constantly. And dynamics aren't, how do I say this? Dynamics constantly change as well. And I think maybe that's where we sometimes get stuck, because as we evolve and as we change, the dynamics between us evolve. The dynamics between us change.
That's
like
true.
The way that we communicated when it was just the two of us is different now because we have a child.
Yeah.
And a helper who's living with us. So we can't always expect what worked the last time to work again now. So I think it's that also consciously having the mindset to constantly be putting in the work, constantly be learning, constantly be asking, constantly be looking, observing.
Another good conversation is, like how people always say in any form of relationship, you must constantly put in the work. But what is put in the work?
That's a conversation for
what does that look like? I feel like we just throw these words out. Put in the work.
Maybe we can expand on that.
Yeah, expand in another conversation. What does putting in the work actually look like? But I love what you said. I think you can't expect the 18-year-old communicator Mawanda to sustain the parent version of 100%. Mawanda. So I think it's the same thing in relationships, because we're both constantly evolving. And again, you can apply this to every form of relationship. We're just speaking about us as a couple, but in a friendship, you guys are evolving. In a sisterhood, a brotherhood, you guys are evolving. So the next phase of the person that you've become will need you guys to sit down sometimes and discuss, what does this vision of who we are communicate like? What has changed? Do we have less time now? So maybe we might have to be more effective. How do we work around it, etc. And then before we close, soon we're going to be announcing something cool for becoming. So stay tuned for the next upcoming episodes, and I think you guys are going to love it. I think you'll enjoy being a part of it.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. It's always a pleasure having you. You always have this way of drawing out. Like, you one of the people that will literally draw out a lot of my energy.
I want to know.
Which I absolutely love, and I think our guests enjoy that as well. So yeah, thank you so much thank you so much for being here. And that's it from us today. Please engage, please share, please like, please comment, and do the most.
And I think it'll also be interesting to hear your thoughts about the topic. What's worked, what doesn't work, anything you wish for us to discuss. I think
take it from there.
Interesting. Shout out to Becoming.